It's called Better Humans, and the reason we call it Better Humans is because I believe that humans should be left better than we found them.
Mm-hmm.
A big part of the podcast is like we're all entrepreneurs. We all have businesses, and entrepreneurship is how we like push ourselves to change internally, but our business is how we reach out to others and help push change in them through our products and services.
Yeah,
So
100%.
ideally what we do is we like lift up other people around us by offering through mutual benefit and shared values. We have discussions around it. Um, we just kind of like uplift humanity through entrepreneurship and business. So
Yeah, I love it.
yeah,
Perfect.
awesome. Okay, so Gretchen, in the past we've sat down for a one-on-one, and I actually got to learn a lot about you in that conversation. It's kind of crazy, like all your past, but also like the like previous roles that you've done,
Yeah.
your family, and like all the different jobs that you've been in. But I want the rest of the audience and listeners to be able to like kind of share in that, or like catch up on like what's been going on in the last like a couple of decades in your life, and just hear your story. So
Couple of
based
decades. Yeah.
on based on what you told me when we sat down originally, you like went all the way back to this, and I'll so I don't kill the story. This special family that you
Yeah.
were able to help in the past. You also let me know about how your real estate career started with the ugly house, all that stuff. Can you recap that so that
Yeah,
the
of
rest of
course.
everybody can
Yeah, I mean, right, the
get filled in?
30,000 foot view of 50 plus years on planet Earth. I have a twin. I have twins. I grew up in New England, went to school in Boston, moved to Atlanta. My career path was actually to be a pediatrician. I wanted to be a gastrointestinal surgeon, and Mark and I just had some dumpster fires personally that happened with that process, and I realized, that just wasn't for me. We ended up with these two beautiful babies, and in the course of being in Atlanta, we met some great things, right? But my story really began with kind of all of the different types of humans, for lack there of a better word, especially because of the podcast, that I've been able to interact with through my entire 50 years, right? I grew up with a crazy granola crunchy mom who made my clothes, made my food. So, super liberal, didn't believe in capitalism, hates real estate, that whole thing. But amazing, amazing. She's all about experiences and not commercial items. Fantastic. Then skip ahead, right in Boston, we had a family tragedy. And so I had to pay for school and college myself. And so I became a nanny, and I worked for an Orthodox Jewish family, moved into that family's house, and I got to learn their customs, right? I grew up Roman Catholic in a Latin service. Holy moly, what a change. And I just really treasured the family that I was with, and learned so much. And then shifted when I went to Atlanta. I had the opportunity, right, to work for Ted Turner's family. And so within that course of time, not only did I get to see the ultra wealthy and see how they experienced and their lens that they saw things through, right? The ultra conservative side, Ted's ultra conservative side, and then the super entitled side, and then the way that they do things, the way they handle money, the way that they treat people, or things like that. And during the course of that, working with the Family Foundation, I got to travel the world and meet celebrities and just amazing humans, and then also see the way that they interact and how those things happen. And so always kind of filling up this budget or bucket, excuse me, on just amazing people, and also having the empathy of the lens that they see life through. So that was super cool. Yeah, and in Atlanta, that's when we started our real estate
Yeah.
career, and I went into it kicking and screaming. I did not want to do it. And my husband talked me into it. He was from a real estate background with his family. And so we renovated our first ugly house, and then we built a house, everything. The twins came, and fast pivot. We were down in Jacksonville, Florida. That was a really good fit for us, and that's where we raised our family. And we did a ton of building and a ton of flips. And then when the market crashed, right, it was a crash for us. So we experienced the deep lows that a lot of America felt. We learned the lessons, but instead of just filing bankruptcy and filing foreclosure and everything else, we kind of pulled up our bootstraps and said, okay, so what is actually happening here? How can we make this an opportunity? What can we learn from? Let's surround myself with people who are just smarter than me, right? We don't have to reinvent the wheel. And I think that's something as entrepreneurs, especially those who are out there wearing all the hats. I think they have to wear all the hats.
Yeah.
And that's how you set yourself up for failure. And so having these really brutally honest conversations and a sphere of influence, right? That's what I started doing at that point. And we grew that from just buying up foreclosed houses on the auction block across the Southeast. Even though we were based in Jacksonville, the houses were in the Southeast. But building that into a property management company long term and stabilizing assets, and then realizing, okay, if we sell these assets to a hedge fund, but we keep the management, we can take care of all of our employees. Okay, taking care of all of our employees, what does that look like? Why do we have turnover? How can we take care of them so that they take care of us? And so learning those skills and just kind of
Yeah.
going through that whole process, right? I mean, it's a lot of big steps. And so that company shifted and pivoted as we saw kind of the forecasting of where the market was going. We did then major fix and flips like you see on HGTV, and that brought me to a house that I bought on the ocean, which turned into my very first short-term rental. And so I'm of course now all things short-term rentals, but I'm all things short-term rentals with this whole bucket of experience that comes with it. And so when we sold that other company with our old partners, Mark and I knew we wanted to make a pivotal shift. We had gotten not too big, but if you aren't in alignment with the people you're working with and you're tied to them legally, it's just time to make a pivot. That's it, right? It's not a good thing or a bad thing. It's just
Yeah.
naturally
Yeah.
organic, and it was good for them, it was good for us. And so we knew that we wanted to come. Mark said, hey, let's get back to Georgia. And I said, great, let's go. You know, the twins are in college and let's see what we can do. And we dove right in, moved into Woodstock a year, and not even a year and a half ago now. And just we were really strategic. Listen, we've got boots on the ground now. Let's go and let people know we're here, and let's go find our people, and let's be real intentional about how we do it. And so that, of course, right, you go into something. I think anybody with a business does this. I'm going to go in and I'm going to be the greatest at X, or I'm going to do Y, or, you know, I'm going to do all these things. And then you get into it and you're like, I think I'm gonna do this instead, or I think I'm gonna change this because I don't want to do that, or there isn't a need for whatever. So that
Yeah.
happened as well, right? So Mark came up doing land acquisitions, and he's pivoting and partnering with companies that do like flooring and renovations, and then he's partnering with some other folks who do, you know, films on windows and just a couple of different industries, which is super cool to watch that growth. And then I'm pivoting. I still have a full service short-term rental management company, and it's a concierge. It's for the Southeast, right? It's not just in Florida. It's not just in Georgia. But I'm strategic about the people I work with. I want to work with them as much as they want to work with me. And if they don't, that's okay. I get them to other people who are highly qualified, right? There's
Yeah.
other
Because
people
it's
who do
just
what I
business,
do.
right?
Yeah. You're not supposed to please everybody. So, and in that process, it opened me
Yeah.
up to then not doing right true business coaching. There's a lot of business coaches out there who haven't built and exited an $85 million company, but I have that skill set, right? I've built and exited, and I've lived it. I've had plenty of Jen Gray's word is dumpster fire. I have adopted that term, but we all have plenty of dumpster fires, and that's okay. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about what we learned, and let me stop you from having a dumpster fire so that you can learn from my mistake, and just grow together. I love that part of it. So I'm teaching. I'm doing a lot of investment real estate classes, getting people kind of outside of the traditional real estate bubble and start thinking about it differently. Not because the way that I did it works for you, but because give you the knowledge so that your vision can blossom and bloom because you have the knowledge, rather than just being told by a realtor, oh, you have to buy this house, or you know, your primary residence is your biggest investment. Why is that? Let's talk about that. It shouldn't be that. Your primary residence doesn't make you money. You make money off it on an equity grab at the end of your life. I don't want to make my money when I'm at the end of my life. I want to make it now. So it's those hard conversations about getting over that hurdle and kind of that self-conscious roadblock that most of us put ourselves in front of. Whew, that was a lot, Jimmy.
I know. Man, okay. So, man, okay. This is a perfect caveat, or not caveat. This is a perfect segue into my next question.
Yeah.
But I can't move on without going back to something that you said in the very beginning, which I
Yeah.
think is going to be really important for a lot of people to hear, who might be listening to this. So it's important for me because like this is the stage of life that I'm in, and it caught my ear, and I went, okay. So you had your twins. You
Yeah.
originally were looking at going to school and doing your doctorate, or sorry, essentially becoming a
Yep.
doctor, right?
Hmm.
But then you had your twins, and all of a sudden, because of this new reality that you're in, this profession didn't like fit the mold. Why was entrepreneurship the solution that you went towards, or is that just like it just naturally happened, or you intentionally chose it? Like, how did that happen or play out
Oh yeah, gosh,
as you
no.
were having your
So
kids?
yeah, so it was a little bit more than that, right? So Mark and I had terrible pregnancies and we actually lost some children. And so because I spent so much time during that process
Okay.
in the hospital, that was a mental break for me, right? That was just something that broke my human, right? I was in a terrible way. It took me a long time to heal after that. And then once we had these babies, I
Yeah.
realized I can't not raise them. I can't be in a hospital or be in an office or whatever 40 hours a week when I want to be at their soccer games, or I want to be the one who's the biggest influence in their life. And that was the pivotal shift for me. Mark was already in real estate, right? He had already figured this stuff out. He had worked for Home Depot for years and shifted, and he had
Yeah.
figured this out for sure. And I was just behind the eight ball, right? I was holding up the wall. No, I'm not going to do that. Kind of feeding from all that past kind of financial trauma from my parents, right? Feeding from don't do real estate. That's terrible. So actually I opened it was organic innately for me to do something on my own. I opened an organic catering kitchen that did meals and everything. So when I'm super stressed out, people who know me intimately know this fact about me. When I am stressed out, there is food coming out of my kitchen at a high rate. I will feed neighborhoods. I am in there just cooking, and that's how I get my brain going. And I work through a solution or a problem. I'm just like putting together all these magical ingredients, and then I'm like, oh, I know what I need to do. And meanwhile, I've made, a Thanksgiving dinner and a roast beef, and I've got 16 pies. And anyway, so the catering kitchen, again, that was a thing that I opened, and not that it failed, but my heart wasn't in it. It wasn't what I wanted to do. It was my
Yeah.
passion, but it was a hobby. It wasn't a job. Um, and so I closed that within a year, and Mark just looked at me and said, Gretchen, you have got to get your real estate license. We have got to keep these commissions in house. Like, will you just please go do it? And so he was the one who kind of like shoved me out of the nest and said, you've got to do it. So it was really him pushing me on that
Hmm.
front. And then it just went from there, right? Was I love people. I love hearing people's stories. I love to hear about where they are and where they're going and what their vision is. And so that was a natural fit, right? I mean, I got in cars and I showed property like a typical realtor, and then I shifted and pivoted. I don't
Yeah.
stay in one place very long. Like physically, you can see today I'm out in a field because I've been in 3 cities this morning.
Yeah.
And so it was a
So
natural
funny.
fit for me to pivot.
I
Yeah.
gotcha. But even so, like even the kitchen was like it's something that you owned, right? And
Yeah.
therefore, like you assumed the risk. You had the probably not like the location for as much of the location freedom, but you at least had like the time money freedom aspect where like you could work today or you could have your chefs work today. Um, and that based on like how far you pushed it or how far you set it up, like it could work with or without you, and that way you have the freedom to go be with your kids. And like if you had stuck with your job or like doubled down on like, no, I said I'm going to be a surgeon, or I said I'm going to be a doctor, and like that's the path I have to take, and then you ultimately don't get what you want out of your life and your relationship with your kids. And I noticed that, and I'm just like, man, that like the byproduct of prioritizing family over income is entrepreneurship.
Well, it
That's
is. And
kind of
I
crazy.
think that, yeah, it is, right, Jimmy? And you're an entrepreneur. And I'm sure that you realize this. I have so many really close friends who are entrepreneurs and a couple that I'm mentoring along. And I can't tell you how often I'm like, listen, the money will actually follow. And you have to make a priority to do your best and live your vision and your dream, right? It can't be my vision. It can't be my dream. And do it just like from the gut, do it amazingly well. And then it just naturally does happen. And setting up those processes, and you can't do it by yourself. You have to have other people. So that's where the relationships come in. Later on, maybe
Yeah.
you're working from your computer and you never see another human, but you still have strategic relationships around that support you somehow. Yeah.
That's a lot of what my life looks like right now. I have amazing relationships, and I'm working on leveling up my network and doing all that. But it's like it requires other people. I'm pushing this big idea about better humans, and the whole point is like we're gonna level up people's lives. Like that requires me getting face to face with people, having these relationships, mutual benefit, shared values, all that kind of stuff. So I'm absolutely on board with all of this, and I love that. I love that you could have kept fighting, uh, or like pushing against this idea of like going into real estate, but your husband kept saying like, no, we have to do this, we have to do this, and like do you still today like feel like even though maybe in the moment it wasn't the right decision, but because of the values that get pushed on the tail end of like going all in on real estate, getting your license, building the business, having the time, money, location, freedom, like do you feel like you made the decision or made the right decision today?
Yeah, I do. And it was the right time to do it, right? We were in the at that point we were 2002. So we were right before the big like fantastic market to be in real estate. And then just kind of living through that, having all of those experiences, I do think it was the right step. Now, have I made some wrong steps along the way? 100%. Our company that we just came out of, and it's funny because I talk about listening to your gut and listening to those around you who you really trust. My previous partners, I really trusted. And by the way, not that I don't trust them now, but I knew 2 years before the end of that company that it should have been ended, that I should not have been part of it. I knew that it was no longer aligned and I chose to
Yeah.
ignore it. But I was miserable. So there were signs, right? There will be signs when it's not a good fit. There's definitely signs. There's either
Yeah.
sleepless nights or you're cranky or, you're just not being a better human to those around you. I mean, there's just no reason, right? I walk into let's say a store and somebody is sitting there and they've just got a scowl on their face and they're just being ugly, just an ugly, unkind attitude. And most people will react, but if you just take a step back and go, "Oh my gosh, what is that person going through? What is that human going through at this point for this to be their reaction to me? They don't know me from Adam." Um and so I think if we did that just in business and we really listened to all those gut feelings, gosh, we would all be so much further ahead. Yeah.
Yeah.
Subconscious is a funny thing.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, so your business is short-term rentals, Airbnb, and then also I'll call it like real estate education, but like
Yeah.
so when I hear that on the surface, it all sounds like I don't know, like a little like generalized. Is there
hmm
something specific or tangible that you teach on when it comes to like housing and rentals, or like do you mind like popping open the hood a little bit and just kind of like flexing your knowledge really quick? Like what actually is it that you teach about short-term rentals, Airbnb, and real estate and housing?
Yeah, absolutely. So I got into it originally when I started my first short-term rental company. I needed a referral source. So I've always understood where you need to go to get a referral source. And if you, in the business world, if you don't understand treatment versus solution, educate yourself. So I knew I needed a treatment and not a solution in my referrals. And my direct treatment was real estate brokers, high-end real estate brokers. Well, how am I going to get into those real estate offices and not pay to be a certified vendor or whatever? And the way to do that was to become the educator, to realize, right, my path of going from doing property management into short term, that 2-year process was before Airbnb was a company, right? And so I went looking for somebody. I realized with that one house, which is a much bigger story, I realized how much I didn't know, and I went looking for somebody to mentor me and fell on my face. It was like the wild wild west. And so I said, "Oh my gosh, well, I can figure this out," right? And I stumbled through it, and I just had a terrible time, right? Because it's not real estate. And so people think of Airbnbs, or they think of short-term rentals, and they think of real estate. And they think, I'm just going to put it on this platform and I'm going to launch this product and it's going to go. Well, guess what? If you did that in 2020, 2021, you did amazing if you were in the Southeast. If you were in New York, sorry about you. Or Minnesota, any of those
Yeah.
places. But now that we're in 2025, those same people who dove into it and thought, I'm going to set it and forget it, those houses are now for sale. They're failing. And the reason they're failing is because they don't understand it. So on the education platform, right, I have initial investor, real estate investor, and we talk about things that the normal person doesn't understand. And when I say the normal person, I'm including 80% of realtors. Licensed realtors don't understand hard money, subject to loans, passive income. They don't understand the tax write-offs and the tax breaks, how you can use your actual primary residence that you live in, whether you rent it or own it, as a tax write-off. They don't understand all of those things. They don't understand how to then
Yeah.
give that tool to their clients. I have gotten so many people out, agents who go and they say, "Oh my gosh, this is such a great property. This would make a great Airbnb." And then the person closes on that property and they can't do it because of regulations, or because of something in the area, or because of the house itself, safety violations. Like, it's just filling their knowledge gap with that. So there's two real different programs in the education. One is for the average Joe, right? Hey, everybody is out there buying real estate. How do they do that? I have $2,000 in the bank account. Gretchen, how do I go buy property? Well, you can. You just have to know what those steps are. And then you have to know how to
Yeah.
scale it and multiply it. And you have to know the language, right? If I sat there and I talked about RevPAR, and I talked about pro formas, and I talked about cash on cash returns, and what your buyback was on your primary note, and what your debt service was, like, the general person is going to go, "Oh my God, I don't know what that is." Well, let's fill up their tanks so that they have a tool in their toolbox so that they can go and create wealth for their families, or at least have the knowledge to say, I think I want to explore this. I want to do a deeper dive. So there's introductory classes that go into that basic information: where to find houses, where to find deals, where to find cash, where to find money, loans, things like that. And then on the real estate side, it's really teaching the realtors about that, saying, "Hey guys, you know what I'm talking about has nothing to do with a first-time home buyer buying a first-time home primary residence. That's not what we're talking about. We are talking about all the other stuff." And
Yeah.
so, yeah, that's a small tap of it. And then, and then we go into the short-term side of just being a good steward, understanding regulations, understanding what you should be looking for, even if there's not regulations, so that you're a good neighbor and a good resident in that particular community. It's a
I
lot of words.
gotcha. But yeah. So I I love and appreciate that you're doing this. I'm so personally somebody who, like, there was a point in time where I needed to go, like, raise some money. And then that investor was like, yeah, sure, send me a pro forma. I was like, oh, what a like a performance? Like, what did you say? Like, and so I had to lean on chat GPT to like teach me and educate me and stuff like that. Um, and I also picked something else up, based on what you were saying. Like, it sounds like if you lean on a real estate expert who doesn't have, like, we'll say, like a history of entrepreneurship,
Hmm.
you'll probably end up getting stuck or like being in a less than ideal situation because they're not looking for the same things that you're looking for. Hey, buddy.
Yes.
Sorry, dog scratching the door.
Yeah.
Um,
That's
they're
okay.
not looking for they're looking for like their commission. And then so someone like you is like, okay, I understand what you're looking for. You don't just need the house. You don't just need the short-term rental. You need that plus all these ideals and qualities to go along with that deal, right? Like,
Yeah.
the
I
other
mean,
people aren't looking for stuff like that.
well, I think we don't, Jimmy. I think we don't listen. Would you go to the dentist to get heart surgery? Right? Would you go to the dentist to get heart surgery? No.
Nope. Nope.
But you think that every realtor has the same skill set, right? And so it's so funny in the real estate industry. By the way, also mortgage industry, financial planner industry. I'm not saying that any one particular person is bad. It's kind of like if you were a teenager, right? My teenagers. I've got a girl who lives across the street who can do taxes, and I'm not going to sit and try and teach this to my kids. So they can go over and they can learn how to do their 1040 easy or whatever, and she can do it and she can help them go through that. She can explain those tax laws, everything like that. Now she's a certified CPA, but she's not an expert out there in like business or whatever, right? If my kids then go and they get investment properties and start opening businesses, she might be able to do their taxes for a couple of years, but is she heading them down the path, down a solo Roth conversion with an IRA conversion so that you're getting the best bang for your buck, and they'll be able to then fund both retirement, their health savings account, their Coverdale and everything else going forward? Probably not. Right? And so
Probably
you
not.
grow out of those relationships. You have to grow into, and that's okay to let go of, right? So I love when people in my, and it happens, by the way, all the time in my investment classes. They're like, well, I've got this realtor. I'm like, tell me about the realtor. Well, it's my sister's cousin's niece, and she just got her license. Okay, great. Who's her mentor? Well, I don't know if she has a mentor. Don't you think you should find out if she has a mentor? Or should you know the knowledge so that you can help them? Or find somebody, right? It's not me. I'm not selling real estate, but find somebody who really gets it, or find a tool in your toolbox that you can support with this person or pay, and then they pay a referral fee to this other agent. I mean, it
Yeah.
blows my mind that people are willing to make these purchases of six, seven, 800,000. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's an $80,000 house, but if it's your only $80,000 and you've scrimped and scraped, and it's the wrong investment, that agent isn't going to be there to pick up the pieces and have solutions for you. So you really we need to have a different conversation with realtors. Some of them are in the business and they're great at selling real estate. They're absolutely great at doing that primary sale. I just spoke to someone
Yeah.
down in Florida this last week. She has been in real estate for 45 years. 45 years. And I said to her, I said, oh my gosh, that house would be a great subject to house. She goes, Gretchen, what are you talking about? And I explained it to her. She goes, I've literally never heard of that. And I said, okay, you not even like heard the term. So it's not right. Is that bad that she doesn't know that? No, but that's not her wheelhouse. And so the general public assumes that every real estate professional, and again including mortgage brokers, etc., are all playing with the same deck of cards, and we all have different
They're
rules and
not.
we all have a different deck of cards.
Yeah. Man. So on this subject of we'll say like real estate education, um I went I went digging a little bit on your profile and I actually came across this video you were teaching, and it was about safety with like team members, and basically like I basically saw that you were requiring your team members and your staff to go through a training that helps spot human trafficking or signs of human trafficking.
Yeah.
The first thing I want to say is like, I applaud you. That's amazing. And thank you for doing that. And then second, why do you emphasize that or like make it required and like why is that so important to you? I understand on the surface it's like, yes, human trafficking bad, don't do it. But you've gone so far as to like bake it into your business. Why have you done that?
Well, so little known fact, it's actually required by law. You are acting in
Oh,
the hotel and restaurant world as a short term rental person, and that definition changes from state to state. So, right now, we are currently standing in the state of Georgia. If I was standing in Florida, it would be different. But in the state of Georgia, short term is defined as under 30 days. So as soon as you hit 31 days, you're outside of that, which is, gets into the midterm
yeah.
space, which is also something we do. But you are required by hotels and restaurants. If you went and got a job today at a hotel and restaurant, they're supposed to be doing human trafficking training, and that started in 2021 at multi-state levels. And they're going to start. I think they're way behind the eight ball. They're going to start enforcing that at the residential real estate level because you're in
Yeah.
properties and there are things. So I've run into it. I also am intimately dedicated to supporting an industry started down in Jacksonville, which has spread, but it's a company and a nonprofit called Rethreaded. And it is for the survivors of human trafficking. And there's a friend of mine who became a true friend in business, totally aligned, but different industries. And I knew her for a year and a half before I knew that she had been a human traffic victim. And it just blew my mind at that point. This was so many years ago because we picture like somebody being dragged out of like a kidnap situation or somebody who's in poverty and this is how they're going to survive or something like that, right? And this girl wasn't. She lived in a wealthy neighborhood. She lived in a very prosperous situation. She had her own car and she had parents at home who, by the way, weren't paying attention. um, but she just suffered from a lack of self-esteem. And somebody in that high school clicked onto that, and it led her down a pathway of 4 years coming out of high school into being trafficked. And it like her story is just mind-blowing to me. So that one has a touch that reaches into my heart, because
Yeah.
I just, right, I just don't want anybody to hurt. I know that that's not possible. I know I can't save everyone, but if we notice something, if we see something, we should just be paying attention. And it's just the way of taking care of people, right? What if that was your daughter? I know if that was my daughter, I mean, I would go through the wall to get to her and across the ocean and do what I could. So,
Yeah.
but that's again a little known fact that if you are in short-term rentals, you should be getting that training because there is a high probability in the Southeast that somebody could use your house as a hideaway. It's just a fact.
Well, a really unfortunate one.
Yeah.
It caught it caught my eye because this is also something that I do in conjunction with the software company I work with, ClickFunnels. We in the past have funded and produced an entire documentary on human trafficking in partnership with there's a nonprofit called Operation Underground Railroad. I don't know if you've heard of them,
Yeah. Yeah.
but they are also like for anyone who hasn't, they will go to places where humans are most commonly trafficked, sometimes even other countries, third world countries, and impoverished countries where this is happening so prevalently. Um, and they will put on vests, they'll put on Kevlar, they'll get all their gear, their ARs, and they will go rescue the victims
Amazing.
of human trafficking. And it's incredible. So we're so privileged to have been able to
That's
help
amazing.
fund and produce that documentary, and it was incredible. It was called Operation Toussaint, um, and it's
I'd
just
love to
like
see it. Yeah, that's amazing. It's
it's
amazing
I
what people
believe it's
do.
on Amazon.
Okay.
For anyone who wants to look it up, Operation Toussiaint. And I think that's French for like double back, or like turn around and go back, or like double take. Because in that story, they had arrested the traffickers, but someone had gotten to the judges before they were fully processed, and then 10 days later they were all let back go. So then they had to turn around and go back and rearrest all of the traffickers and go to a power higher than the local judges in order to ensure that these traffickers stayed incarcerated, and weren't out doing all the harm to humanity. Like,
Yeah.
sorry to ruin the story for anyone. Obviously, so go watch the documentary
No, I
because
mean,
it's incredible.
it's a thing that's happening that we're not talking about, right? I mean, it, I guess I'm a tough nut to crack, and I'm a lot for a lot of people, but I want to have those conversations, right? I mean, on the business
Yeah,
side, I want to talk about the structure of your business and whether you're an S corp or a C corp and what your tax structure is. But on the other side, like, what are you doing? How are we making this a better planet? How can I give back to you so that you can then give back to somebody else? Like, why are we not having that? So, thank you for sharing. I will watch that.
great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
think we got
No,
to
Gretchen,
know.
there's a reason you're on the Better Humans podcast. I pick up on stuff like that. Um, so something that I'm seeing kind of recently is you started publishing a lot more content. I'm seeing like an uptick in frequency of like Gretchen's face, live video, publish, like exactly like where you are now. It's like just pop the camera open, like, hey, like we're talking. Let's talk.
Yeah.
Um, what is the purpose for this uptick, and like what are you trying to drive attention to right now?
Yeah, I mean, so really, right at the end of the day, I'm going to drive things into my classes and my mentorship. I have a mastermind. I mean, that's what I want to drive it to. But I want people to know, like, and trust me. I have a social media girl who I've hired for years, and so she does it on my businesses, right? She's got great footage of my buildings and people traveling to the houses and going into the different
Yeah.
areas, and so I've got lots of different things. And she just said, Gretchen, you know what? You have got to brand Gretchen. And I was like, but do I have to? Like, and so yeah, so that's been the way to do it, right? And it's funny because all the different places we've lived, when we lived up here in Atlanta previously, right? We were downtown, and then we were in Tucker, we were in Brookhaven, different places, then in Jacksonville in multiple little areas, down to St. Augustine, etc. And then I've got a hold down in South Florida on the Naples side, and up in Hilton Head. And so I've got lots of people. So the good thing is I can kind of put it out there for all these people that I know in all those locations. And I've been able to stay in contact with them more, which is kind of nice. But
Yeah.
it's really about the new people understanding what my skill set is. And at the end of the day, I am not here to judge you. I might laugh, by the way. If it's a funny story, I might laugh. But I'm here to, like, work alongside. Like, let's make this a lot easier. I would rather
Hmm.
sit, help 3 or 4 entrepreneurs over a cold beer and listen to some great music with a local band, and we're all enjoying life, than being stressed out at a desk thinking you have to do everything yourself. And so I've gotten to that point in my life, right? I've gone
Yeah.
through that. You don't think I've spent 18 hours a day at a desk? Shoot, you didn't see me in 2010 when I was underwriting and buying 300 houses a day. I mean, I never left my desk, and that had to shift. So that's it, right? That's what I want to drive it to.
Yeah.
I have Saltair Stays, which is my referral real estate brokerage, and it's based out of Florida. All Things Short Term Rentals is based out of Georgia. I have a full service brokerage down in Jacksonville called Northern Florida Real Estate Group, and then Steve and Tony, which is the short term rental property management company. And listen, if people think it's just me, it's not. It takes a team. You've got to have tons of people who are helping you, and you've got to have the right people. And I am so blessed to have team members who have been with me for 15 plus years, because I want to take care of them, and then they take care of me. And it's so pivotal to have that, because then I can sit here in a field on a beautiful sunny day and I'm not sitting behind a desk. Um, So yeah, it's really about being able to give those people that same vision of how can I get to that next step. You don't have to drone on in a job from 9 to 5 and not make
Yeah.
that next change unless that's what you want, by the way. So if you do, that's okay too. That's your
Yeah,
vision.
so I think some people value simplicity, and I would say that a job versus entrepreneurship is simplicity, but you also forfeit a lot of stuff too. So it's really like find your values because good luck if you don't.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's true.
on top of like me noticing that you're publishing a ton more, I also noticed that like you have sort of like this partner in crime on a lot of your videos. I mean, you mentioned her earlier, but I
Yeah.
wanted to just ask you like to you, who is Jen Gray and why are you publishing with her so much in particular?
Yeah, so Jen and I met right after we moved up here. I didn't know her. We had a one-to-one that was a total fail in February of last year. We ended up like 12 people ended up hijacking the whole thing, and at the end of it's funny now we can talk about it, but I was like, okay, well, she's just not my people, and she thought the same thing. Yeah, she's not my people, whatever. And so Jen got really vulnerable with me in June, and I don't think I'm pretty sure she's publicly put it out there. And she came up and said, Gretchen, you've been here for not even like 7 months, and you know everybody. And not only do you know everybody, like you're referring people to people and you're making these connections. How do you do that? She goes, I've lived here my whole life and I can't do that. And she said, can I just get in the car with you and spend a week with you? And I was like, I mean, if you want to, like, do you want to? Uh, and she was like, yeah. And so, I was like, I mean, I'm a lot to take. You may not want to do this after a day. And so anyway, we did it. She ended up coining it the Gretchen Tour, which is so funny because now I've had 3 or 4 people ask me for the Gretchen Tour. I should probably market this.
Ooh,
Um, I should
man,
probably do
that
it.
we need
But
to talk about when we stop recording. I want to talk about that. That's funny.
So she and I spent the week together, and there's a lot more details that happened in that week. But what really happened is that we both got super vulnerable. She told me about the worst of the worst of the dumpster fire of her life. And I got
Right.
to share the worst of the worst of the dumpster fires with my life. And we talked about toxic humans, and we talked about kind of trusting people and then not trusting people and fake people. And
Yeah.
then we also talked about like the systems that I use, how I keep track of my networks. I'm in all these states. Like, how do you remember these people? By the way, I don't. I have a system because I'm not magic. And I classify people a certain way. And I taught her how I classify people. And then she gave me ideas. And there has just never been any kind of struggle since that point. She and I have just been
Yeah.
really fluid in real conversations. And so we ended up going and doing and sponsoring these crazy golf tournaments. And then that kind of took it to the next level. The golf tournament, the first one, was really like, oh my gosh, we're going to be all over social media. And we got all of these likes and follows, and people were like, we just want to hang out with you guys because you're real. And so that was the shift.
I gotcha.
That was about the time that Gabby down in Jacksonville was like, Gretchen, you've got to start branding yourself. And so we just did it. And she's amazing. She's an amazing human with an amazing story. She's so freaking positive that on the days where I can't get the Eeyore cloud off me, she's just like, come on, let's go. And she kicks that Eeyore cloud off me and says, we're gonna do something. And so we balance each other out, right? She's the branding and
Yeah.
marketing, and I'm the business building. And so like little things, she's been doing this amazing podcast. And I'm like, Jen, you have got to monetize this thing. You've got to make the ask. You've got to, I don't even care today if it's $1. It needs to be a lot more than that. I don't care, but you've got to make the ask, right? You've got to, and that was a hurdle, right? And I think that's a hurdle for a lot of people. You have to first break the glass, and then you've got to step through the glass to get to the next one, right? And she's there. She's probably 3 or 4 sheets in. She's got some amazing moves that are about to happen for her, and I'm super excited
Yeah.
about it. and I'm going to do everything I can to get her there. And I think I'm going to be on her coattails, not the other way around. She's just an amazing, amazing human that I am lucky to call a friend.
Well, that's amazing. So, Gretchen, as we're wrapping up here, I just want to I want to compliment you and kind of like cheer you on. I know that there's struggles and setbacks that entrepreneurs face, and especially with you being a female entrepreneur, sometimes they're just like female entrepreneurs, they're just at a bit of a disadvantage. But like when you are in a room, you command attention and you dominate a room. And like I see that like even now you're still making massive moves in your business. You successfully raised your kids in the process. Your kids are off at college, and just I'm a big fan over here. So the last thing, and I'm pretty sure that we kind of covered this a little bit, but I just want to get your 2 cents on it. Is that the podcast is called Better Humans, and I named it that because I believe that humans should be left better than you found them. Do you resonate with that idea? And like, if you do you feel like your actions and your business resonates with that? How do you believe that you are going out and making better humans?
Oh my gosh. So we had a little pivot there because my phone overheated, but Jimmy, that is such a great question. At the end of the day, right? I look at all these entrepreneurs who are struggling and floundering on certain things that they're doing, and sometimes it's in their personal life. A lot of times it's in their businesses because they just think they have to know everything. And so, right, if we're just giving back, if we're becoming a support system, if we're becoming something that can help drag the other one, right? One of my big things is that I always look for a mentor. So I'm always reaching up for a mentor, but we forget a lot that we need to look back and drag the other person with us. And so, as a better human, that could go towards your family, that could go towards siblings and children, that can also go toward kind of growing your community and other entrepreneurs, etc. So it really does matter on being a better human, and just kind of wrapping it up. It's a really, really amazing opportunity to be a part of someone's changing for the better and kind of filling their love tank or their bucket because maybe somebody else isn't, or maybe they don't know the questions to ask, and just being vulnerable, right? So if I'm vulnerable, hopefully somebody else feels comfortable to do that with me, and then I can help kind of drag them along as I'm reaching up. So that's definitely something that I am looking into doing, and just being a better human that way in my business and friendships and family and everything else. So I am so excited that you had me on today. I know that this has been crazy because I had to do a little shift and pivot here, but what an amazing opportunity to be part of the Better Humans. I hope you have an amazing day.